Chapter 1. Billings, Montana, late 1880s. Virginia Black pulled her cloak up around herself. She felt both excitement and trepidation about what lay ahead. This was her very first assignment as a governess, and she was certain it was just the beginning of a wonderful life. She stared at the profile of her employer, Mr. Bartholomew Llewellyn. "We have arrived," he said, climbing down from the buggy. "I'm sorry you've had to endure such a dreary trip. Let's hope the weather is better tomorrow." He smiled tentatively, then glanced at the overcast sky. He busied himself with pulling her meager luggage from the buggy, then headed to the front door. Virginia shivered at the prospect of living in this house, this mansion. From the outside it seemed lifeless. Through the windows, despite the curtains being drawn, it appeared to be in darkness. Mr. Llewellyn assured her during their long trip his wife and children would have returned before they arrived. He rattled the door handle, then let out a low growl. He turned to face her. "Forgive me. It appears my wife hasn't yet arrived, and it's the housekeeper's day off." His annoyance was evident as he pulled a key from his pocket. Pushing the door wide, he ushered her through, then followed behind and brought her luggage inside. Lighting a lantern, he waved her ahead and up the stairs. In the near darkness, Virginia had a feeling of foreboding, but knew it was her imagination getting the better of her. "Your room is to the left," he said, his voice echoing in the empty house. "The nursery is next door. They're adjoining rooms. Catherine, when she arrives, we'll go through all the details. In the meantime, settle yourself in. Then come down to the kitchen. I'll put the kettle on." He opened the bedroom door and ushered her inside, dropping her small suitcase just inside the room, and then he was gone. Virginia glanced around the room. It wasn't huge, but it wasn't tiny either. There was a single bed which was adorned by a colorful quilt, a bedside cupboard with 3 drawers. A comfortable chair sat in the corner. Atop the cupboard sat a lantern and a Bible. She walked over to the window and stared out. Not that she could see much in the near darkness, but Virginia could make out a large garden at the back of the house. On either side there appeared to be houses, but she couldn't be sure. When she'd arrived, Virginia had noticed houses on the opposite side of the road, but none close to the size of her employer's home. From what she understood, Bartholomew Llewellyn was a banker, and a high-profile one at that. He had a standing in the community that couldn't be equaled. It was the reason she was so nervous about taking this job, but she had little choice. She either accepted this posting or forgot about becoming a governess for the high-class agency she'd enrolled with. Refusing 2 previous positions because of their remote locations, this was her last opportunity. If she didn't take this listing, they were going to ban her from any future work through them. Virginia neither wanted nor could afford to have them do that. Father had given her an ultimatum. Take the position or find somewhere else to live. According to him, she was far too old to be living at home, and at 23, well past a respectable age to marry. Except she didn't want to marry, especially since Father tried to pair her with whomever took his whim. Most of the gentlemen he'd chosen were little more than storekeepers. Virginia foresaw a better life for herself. Her family was not wealthy, far from it, but they weren't poor either. She didn't see herself living a life of luxury with the person she eventually married, but she didn't want to live in a hovel either. She unpacked the little luggage she possessed and placed it in the drawers. She then went downstairs to the kitchen. Mr. Llewellyn had promised tea and she was parched. She was looking forward to the hot beverage. The trip from the train station was cold, and she was close to shivering by the time they arrived. "Ah, there you are, my dear." Mr. Llewellyn placed a mug of tea on the table for her. "You look chilled to the bone. Take your tea and warm yourself up by the fire." He was quite fatherly, she thought, beginning to feel comfortable around him. She couldn't wait to meet his wife, and craned her neck to glance through to the next room. "I'm afraid my wife hasn't arrived yet," he said with a sigh. "She should have been here hours ago, along with your young charges." He smiled then, and Virginia felt even more relaxed than she had already. "Thank you. I can't wait to meet them all." She took a sip of the tea. Warmth flooded her as it slid down her throat. It was already doing its job, and she continued to drink as she sat by the fire, her employer sitting opposite. "Perhaps we should rustle up something to eat," he said out of the blue. "I assume you haven't eaten?" She shook her head. Time had got away with her, and the last thing Virginia had expected was the length of the trip from the station to her new home. He rummaged through the kitchen cupboards, but came up with nothing. "Do you have a pantry?" He stared at her dumbfounded. "I do not know. The housekeeper manages all that."